Ladies and gentlemen watching, today we're gonna talk about our beloved leaders and leadership in Africa. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here because I'm speaking on this. Therefore, with respect, I have to say what needs to be said. They said leaders can be judged by the condition of his followers and not the power and money. So to deal with that statement, Africa is in deep trouble. It is under assault. It is unfortunate by these leaders who did not yet recognize what it is that we are expecting from them. Generally speaking, many people believed the problem in Africa now is basically a failure of a leadership. Intelligence and education has to become essential module that leaders should have. They also believed a man and woman who've been given the opportunity to run those least developed countries are not the right people, despite sharing similar tradition and heritage. A continent full of natural resource, oil and gas, rich soil, good for agriculture, a beautiful place, a place of recreation with a lot of diversity of wild animals. Yet violence, hunger, destruction on everywhere, and corruption are always remain on top of the list. And that is not accident, ladies and gentlemen. Africa is not free yet from the unfair foreign economic policy imposed that comes in a form of dominating all the raw materials in almost every country in Africa. So we will not even belong as our natural resource anymore. Yes, it is not free for this political decision-making process. The unseen power make things move in Africa, and that is the real power. Many African leaders are illegitimate power. We have seen that in some areas they have been ruling more than 3 decades, and 80% of their population were born after they came to power. And that is insane, unacceptable. They want to stay long in power, not ready for change, adjusting the constitution in every term under the name of democracy that do not reflect in the people's life at home. And eventually that's what brings about inequality and destabilize the country from the first place. United Nations forecast that 4 in every 10 people will be African by the end of this century. And what does that mean is we will have the largest workforce with the growing population and economic perspective, and that is fine. We do not know what the future will bring to us, but there is so much to do with the average number of 20% unemployment graduates in almost every country in Africa. And that is unhealthy society. You look South Africa, for instance, the rainbow nation, one of the most developed and economically powerful in the black continent. 26% South Africans are in desperate need to get a job. Right now I'm speaking. Forget about the rest of the countries. So the question is, what makes a great leader today? What are their basic responsibilities? What are their top priorities? We get accreditation for our students by institutions in Europe. It actually discredits our education system in Africa. Our military are behind funding from United States of America. Our regional economic representatives are incapable and confused, while the whole lot of people are waiting for them to be advised and respond to those mismanagement and ineffective administrations. Our leaders, they're supposed to put up a satellite and think about it, what is going on above you. You're supposed to produce your own food and develop your local industries and make your medicine to immediately stop the garbage dumping from Europe, America, and Asia that we cannot even put on experiment. And as a result of that, many of us are now living long and dying as early as they could by how and what we eat. You're supposed to set up a Central African Development Bank so we will not have to borrow money from IMF, World Bank with that much of interest as we already have huge debt. So with all that being said, you are not qualified as a leader to guide us anymore when you fail to give a damn life to your people, clean water and balanced food in 21st century. You are not qualified as a leader when you accept the notion of federalism, so-called autonomous regions, breaking down a homogeneous people and ended up what? Fighting for their beneficial outcome. This thing was set up for you to fail. You are not qualified as a leader when you compromise your identity and gave a piece of land to the oppressor instead of developing the land and build a condominium and flats for the indigenous and the poor people among us who's getting poorer every day. So now you may ask yourself, what do we want? We want you to think about human development, standard of living, strategy of uplifting from a social degradation into self-esteem. To make sure your people, your black people, look presentable, bankers, professionals, dressed like a prospect, not a suspect, put on them a bow tie, then possibly we will earn respect from the other nations, as they never had expect nothing wisdom from a black person. We want to see African leaders who come together on a round table, acknowledge themselves with the spirit of unity and find a solution for their difference. A genuine leader, a man and woman who speaks and acts as a leader and never overlooked what they promised during campaign. A man who thinks good for the people and not material wealth for himself and family. A leader who carried out and put into practice a policy based upon justice and equality that do not only make people respect the law but believe in the law, the system, the democracy, the individual right, and obviously not a policy that displays and put people on refugee camps. A man who do not put a smile on the face of our enemies, of our devastation and disunity. So my final word is, you take it or leave it alone, it doesn't make sense. But let me say this, our problems will never be solved unless we think twice to whom we should vote for when the election time comes in. Because nobody will dictate to you who you should vote for. But we get sick and tired. A 55 years old man, uneducated man, a small business owner who never been in a political arena, but all of a sudden nominated a minister, a head of state, simply because of nepotism and tribe affiliation. Then what can we expect from him? Absolutely nothing. Africa, live with your problems or get out the mess quickly. Thank you.